Hello friends. In this video I will tell you two very mysterious and scary stories. If you want more such videos, subscribe on the channel. Here we go. Gateway of the Mind. In 1983, a team of deeply pious scientists conducted a radical experiment in an undisclosed facility. The scientists had theorized that a human without access to any senses or ways to perceive stimuli would be able to perceive the presence of God. They believed that the five senses clouded our awareness of eternity, and without them, a human could actually establish contact with God by thought. An elderly man who claimed to have nothing left to live for was the only test subject to volunteer. To purge him of all his senses, the scientists performed a complex operation in which every sensory nerve connection to the brain was surgically severed. Although the test subject retained full muscular function, he could not see, hear, taste, smell, or feel. With no possible way to communicate with or even sense the outside world, he was alone with his thoughts. Scientists monitored him as he spoke aloud about his state of mind in jumbled, slurred sentences that he couldn't even hear. After 4 days, the man claimed to be hearing hushed, unintelligible voices in his head. Assuming it was an onset of psychosis, the scientists paid little attention to the man's concerns. 2 days later, the man cried that he could hear his dead wife speaking with him, and even more, he could communicate back. The scientists were intrigued, but were not convinced until the subject started naming dead relatives of the scientists. He repeated personal information to the scientists that only their dead spouses and parents would have known. At this point, a sizable portion of scientists left the study. After a week of conversing with the deceased through his thoughts, the subject became distressed, saying the voices were overwhelming. In every waking moment, his consciousness was bombarded by hundreds of voices that refused to leave him alone. He frequently threw himself against the wall, trying to elicit a pain response. He begged the scientists for sedatives, so he could escape the voices by sleeping. This tactic worked for 3 days, until he started having severe night terrors. The subject repeatedly said that he could see and hear the deceased in his dreams. Only a day later, the subject began to scream and claw at his non-functional eyes, hoping to sense something in the physical world. The hysterical subject now said the voices of the dead were deafening and hostile, speaking of hell and the end of the world. At one point, he yelled, "No heaven, no forgiveness," for 5 hours straight. He continually begged to be killed, but the scientists were convinced that he was close to establishing contact with God. After another day, the subject could no longer form coherent sentences. Seemingly mad, he started to bite off chunks of flesh from his arm. The scientists rushed into the test chamber and restrained him to a table so he could not kill himself. After a few hours of being tied down, the subject halted his struggling and screaming. He stared blankly at the ceiling as teardrops silently streaked across his face. For 2 weeks, the subject had to be manually rehydrated due to the constant crying. Eventually, he turned his head and, despite his blindness, made focused eye contact with a scientist for the first time in the study. He whispered, "I have spoken with God, and He has abandoned us," and his vital signs stopped. There was no apparent cause of death. Case file number 233 UT, forever. The following evidence has been translated from pen and paper to binary text directly from the personal account of one county sheriff, Hendrickson. Names of the victims and survivors involved have been replaced per the family's request. Any major discrepancy within the paper's wording will be explained in depth per requested by the court. Personal account. I don't know why I'm having to write this down for the third goddamn time now, but here you go, fucking desk jockey. At 2:06 a.m., Tuesday, name from the call lines gave a shout about some kids caught trespassing at the Turner's old factory again. White truck. Another batch of paperwork. After letting her know I was en route, I arrived at the front gate around 2:10 a.m. Tuesday. It was cracked from the last break-in, so I left my car behind and sent a call about 2 minutes later in case I was gonna need the dog. Goddamn kids are fast, but not as fast as good old Lassie. After entering the compound on foot, I managed to find the truck I'm pretty sure they came in. An old white Ford, name, more rust than metal. Definitely the one old man, name, described. Windows wide open. Or broken, I couldn't rightly tell. It was parked at the side of that main dirt road heading northbound to whatever the hell county wants to call the mess of concrete at the end of it. You know that long road? One of them was already inside. Smelled it before I saw him. It was awful. Thought he was dead. One of the worst I've ever encountered. I promptly reached for my service pistol and investigated further, trying real hard to stop myself from losing dinner. Name, the dumb kid that worked at Nancy's place, was just sitting there holding the wheel. His clothes were a mess. All scratched up and torn. Looked like he went rolling around in mud, then scooped some into the passenger seat. I asked his name. Must have been drunk, high or some shit because he kept staring forward. Holding the wheel so tight I thought he'd break it off or break his fingers. Asked him again a little louder and got my flashlight out. No need for the gun, so I laid off. Obviously. I don't think he blinked the whole time, real creepy. Before I could get a closer look, something like a scream came from down the way. No way in hell was I going in without support, so I thought I'd wait it out and let my colleagues do their damn job. Take care of, name, until then. I swear I only took my eyes off him for a goddamn second, and just like that, the kid's gone. The smell too. No sound, no nothing. No door opening. It was enough to make me hightail it back towards my ride. I don't get paid enough to take pranks lightly. I don't care how sneaky they think they are. What I told myself, if these kids want to act up, I'd get the whole team awake and out. Give them a real scare. But then again, closer this time. That scream. It was so loud. Made my hair stand up more than the usual cold winds did. Now I'm used to a lot of things. Seen a lot of real bad shit. That scream though. Still can't get it out of my head. What the hell were they doing out there? Had a wicked thought, so I pulled my big boy pants up and got to marching. Heading towards where I last heard it, gun a little more ready this time. I know this sounds weird as hell, but when I did make it to the spot and finally checked my watch, it was 3:34 a.m. Hour and a half. Gone in less than a few minutes. Had to pinch myself then and there. I don't know what the fuck happened. When the last scream I heard flew out from somewhere up at the factory, I threw my clearly broken watch in my pocket and, running now, I pursued the noise. They want to play. Then let's play. That's all I was really thinking at that point. I don't think I've ran that fast since football heading north up the dirt road. I continued on for about 150 yards or so until I got to what looked like a jacket on the ground. Name. Had to be from one of trespassers, so I scooped it up and rummaged through. Was hoping they left some form of identification. Dumb kids do dumb things. But all I found was an old gray flip phone. Name. I would have kept going, but I swore I heard sirens in the distance, so I gave up the chase and headed back. That damn road was hurting the knees, so I was glad to see the flashing lights past the damned tree line. From there, I made my way from the center of the road towards the white truck and then finally into Officer Connor's Vic. On the journey, I decided to get a little revenge for wasting my night and did a little digging into the phone. I know I shouldn't have, and I'll apologize to the family if I have to. Shit, I'll even take a pay drop. It was some girls, never heard of her, name, or some shit. Must have been new in town. The only thing I saw was an outgoing message, which didn't make much sense. If it really was a prank, why leave it in such a hurry? How could they be that scared of me? The message. The fucking message that started this whole goddamn thing. The whole case, I bet. It was going to her mom. I'm sure you already know the old man's lawyers won't stop screaming about it in the other room. And I'm with them on this one. Crazy. Every line of it. Now when the fuck can I get my coffee, and why the hell won't you talk to me? At least tell me why we had to get here so fast without even finding the punks. What the hell did I say in that car ride that's got you so damn pissy? Message retrieved from the victim's phone is as follows, per court request. Advertisements, please help. It's been so long. We're hungry. Name, said we were running out of food. Name, told us the truck should have been out of gas miles ago. He tried to keep count. Someone ran last time we stopped. I don't think they, name, made it. The sun should be here by now. Why isn't the sun here? I want to go home. Please, Mom. The road goes on forever. Closing notes for case file number 233 UT. County Sheriff D.H. Hendrickson was found on scene at 12:33 p.m. Saturday after a statewide search leading from the disappearance of the sheriff as well as the missing children had already occurred. 2 bodies, name, were recovered close to Turner's factory with signs of exhaustion, starvation, and physical trauma. The 3 still missing bodies were unaccounted for until Hendrickson was found by an officer who had finished removing residual police tape per name request. The 4 days missing from his legal account led to the creation of name added onto his overall inconsistency within the written personal transcript. The road is estimated by local surveyors to be about 20 feet in length from the entrance to the factory edge as it has been since its creation. Before he could be informed of the inconsistency and questioned for his contamination of evidence, D.H. Hendrickson was sadly found hanging dead from copper pipes built into the top of his holding cell via the length of his tie. Internal investigations revealed no foul play. It is presumed he was mentally unstable at the time of his arrival and took his own life within this mental state. Case file concluded. I hope you enjoyed the video. Subscribe to see more content like this.